Hello, grade 9. Today we are going to study multiplying and dividing radical expressions. So first, if we want to multiply two radical expressions, so we have a number outside and we have a number under the radical sign, and the second one also number outside and a number inside under the radical sign. So for example, we have 5 square root 3 times 4 square root 2. So we are going to compound the outside together like 5 times 4 together, and then under the radical sign we have 3 times 2. Then you will simplify now. 5 times 4, it will be equal 20. And then under the radical sign, it will be 3 times 2, it will be equal 6. We can't simplify more 6, so we will keep it the same. In this question, we have square root 3 and square root 12. So we will combine the two numbers together under the radical sign. Then it will be 3 times 12. Now we will find the number. It will be root 36. We know that root 36, it will be equal 6. Let's move to the next question. Square root 3 times square root 8. We will multiply 3 times 8 under the radical sign, so it will be square root 24. Now 24 is not a perfect square number, so we will try to find a number, one perfect and the second is not perfect, like 4 times 6. Now we have square root 4, it will be equal to root 6. Another question, square root 9 times 4 square root 25. We can note from the beginning now that we have 9 is a perfect square number times 4 times root 25, it will be 5. Then we have 3 times 4 times 5, it will be equal 60. Then in case we found that the number it's a perfect square number, so we will find the root for it. So this one, it will be 3, 4, it will be the same, square root 25, it will be 5. Then we will imagine that we have before the radical sign for the first one was 1 times square root. If you want to multiply from the beginning 9 times 25, it will be root 225. Then it will be 4 times 15, also it will be equal 60. So we have two different methods to answer this question. If you will note that the number we can find a root, a perfect square, 9 is a perfect square number, so we can find square root 9, it will be equal 3. And 25, it's a perfect square number, so we can find it equal 5. And we will keep 4 the same. Or we will use the same way. Before 9, here we have 1, then it will be 1 times 4, it will be equal 4, and we will multiply the two radicands under the radical sign. So it will be 9 times 25, it will be 225. Now 225 is a perfect square number, root 225, it will be equal 15, so the answer it will be equal 60. So we have two different ways and it's up to you to work. In this question, you can note that for the first one I have root 8, for the second one I have root 2. Then we will multiply 6 times 7, it will be 42, and then 8 times 2, it will be equal 16. Then 42 times 4, it will be equal 168. Next, so we have here root 5 and then root 5 plus 2. So we have to distribute. We are going to distribute root 5 over the parentheses. Then it will be root 5 times root 5 and root 5 times 2. Now, root 5 times root 5, it looks like root 5 all to the power of 2. Then we have root 25. What is the root 25? It will be 5. Root 5 times 2, it will be 2 root 5. And we will separate between them by plus because the sign here is positive. So 2 times root 5, it will be equal to root 5. We will separate by 5. Now, root 25, it will be equal 5 plus 2 root 25. Those two, we can't simplify more. Then the final answer, it will be 5 plus 2 square root 5. So once we have a number before the parentheses, so we have to simplify by distributive. Here in this question, it's dividing square root A over square root B. We will back to something here with multiplication. We stopped with multiplication when we use distributive property. We have another type for multiplication. When we have square root 5 plus 3 times square root 3 minus 4. In this case, we have two binomials. So we can use FOIL method to simplify. Then with FOIL method, F for first, O for outer, I for inner, and L for last. Then first times first. Root 5 times root 3. It will be root 15. Root 5 times root 3. After that, we are going to multiply the outer. Then it will be negative 4 root 5. Those two. This is the inner. 3 times root 3. So it will be 3 root 3. 3 times negative 4. It will be negative 12. In this question, we don't have any like term to compound them together. Then we are going to keep the question like this. One more question. Square root 7 minus 4 times 3 minus square root 7. We will start to multiply. First time first, it will be 3 square root 7. Then outer root 7 times negative root 7. So it will be negative 7 because root 7 times 7, it will be root 7. Root 7 times root 7, it will be root 49, which it will be 7. And now we have negative 3 times negative 4 times 3, it will be negative 12. And by the end, negative 4 times negative root 7, it will be positive 4 root 7. Do you notice that we have any like term in this question? Yes, we have. We can note that we have 3 square root 7 and we have 4 square root 7. So we will combine them together. It will be 7 square root 7 and negative 7 minus 12, it will be negative 19. And this is the final answer for this question. Then we have multiplying binomial when we have two different numbers, root 5, 3, root 3. And we have another type when we have the same which is it was difference between two squares. Then with difference between two squares, let me give you an example. Like root 5 minus 3 times root 5 plus 3. So we can note that we have the same parentheses in both two cases. Then we will not have a middle term. If you will try to use, if you want to use a FOIL method in this question, so you can say that I'm going to make root 5 times root 5, it will be equal 5. Outer, it will be plus 3 root 5, and then inner, it will be minus 3 root 5, and negative 3 times positive 3, it will be negative 9. Now we can simplify. I have 3 root 5 minus 3 root 5. Then this part, it will be equal 0. Then by the end, I have 5 minus 9. Then the answer, it will be equal negative 4. Then this is a difference between two squares. So we can note that we have root 5 and root 5. You have 3 and you have 3. So we can say that the answer, it will be root 5 all to the power of 2 minus 3 to the power of 2. Then first all to the power of 2 minus second to the power of 2. In this case, it will give us the answer the same. 5 minus 9, it will be equal negative 4. Then for this special case, difference between two squares, we will note that I have root 5 and root 5. I have 3 and I have 3. But the sign at the middle is different. So in this case, we are going to make a square, like if I have a minus b and a plus b. So what is the rule? To multiply two binomials, it will be a square minus b square, because this is represent a special case for multiplying binomial. Then for multiplication, like we said, we can multiply a monomial by binomial by using distributive property, or we can multiply two binomials together, and we have a special case which is difference between two squares. So this is for multiplication. Let's move to the next part. So let's take more exercise. If I want more exercise about this one, so we can note here that we have. Now we will move to the second part in our lesson today, which is dividing. Then once we have a square root a over b, so we can divide it into two parts. Let's take an example. When I have big radical 49 over 25, that's equivalent to saying square root 49 over square root of 25. Let's try that again. Now we have a square root 5 over 4. So we are going to divide it square root 5 over square root 4. Then it will be square root 5 over 2. And we have to care about the denominator to be an integer number. In this question, square root 9 over square root 5. But note that we will not accept square root 5 in the denominator. We have to make the denominator with integer number. Then square root 9 becomes 3. But the problem now with the square root 5 in the denominator. So we have to multiply by its conjugate. And what's its conjugate? Root 5 times root 5. So in case we have the denominator is root 5, so we will multiply by root 5 and root 5. The denominator is root 2, so multiply by root 2 over root 2, and so on. Now we will continue. We will multiply the numerator together now, which is 3 times root 5. It will be 3 root 5. The denominator, root 5 times root 5, it will be the square root 25, which it will be 5. So now we have a denominator is an integer number, then we will accept it. What about this question? We will divide root 5 over root 3. Do you accept square root in the denominator? No. How we can remove it? Multiply by its conjugate. So we will multiply by square root 3 times square root 3. And now we will multiply the numerator together. It will be. Now we didn't change anything. Root 3 over root 3 equal 1. So we didn't change the question. But only we tried to keep the denominator with a rational number. Then square root 15 over root 3 times